What is up? What I wish I knew before I was 25, bro, is that like we're literally so young. I just turned 25. Today is January 27, like a month and a week ago or something similar to that. And I just turned 25, right? I literally feel like I just turned 18 again. And like nobody's ever told me that like halfway through your 20s life kind of just like starts over. And I feel like that's what 25 has felt like for me so far. When I was like 16, I was hanging out, doing dumb shit with people and doing drugs, skipping school, or being fucking just flat out stupid, not making good decisions. I was getting in trouble with the law. Dumb shit. Again, dumb shit. And as I continued to get older, 17, 18, 19, life continued changing and growing and being very different things than what I was used to. I spent a lot of time on disconnecting myself from like trauma and this like false ideology of who I am and who I should be. When you're like 18, 19, 20, you're literally so fucking young. You think you have it all figured out. You think you know everything. You don't. Newsflash, you don't. And that's okay. That's like what life is about. It's about experiences and fucking up and learning to do things the right way and like not repeating your fuck ups. That's what makes you a fuck up, is making the choice to keep doing what you're doing even though you know it's wrong. That's a big issue. The whole thing I've learned as well is being intentional, choosing to do things, and like why people don't do things. Having a routine makes it very easy to be like, this is what I'm going to do, because everything over here that I shouldn't be doing fucks up what I should be doing. And you just get tired of feeling like shit for not getting your stuff done, if that makes sense. When I was 16, like I said, partying, doing dumb shit, hanging out with the wrong people, not focusing on any positive impact on my life. I did good in school. I graduated early, was in like advanced classes. I'm definitely like not behind intelligently or intelligence wise, but I just didn't make the right decisions. I didn't care. I wanted to have fun and I thought I knew what I was doing. I ended up in relationships that I probably shouldn't have been in. I shouldn't have stayed in as long as I did. 17, I got in trouble again with the law, and I was very restricted in what I couldn't do. I was on probation, so I wasn't allowed to like leave the state, for example. And I obviously, probation means you're not supposed to be doing drugs. And when I say drugs, I mean like smoking weed, maybe doing acid or mushrooms or something. You're not supposed to be doing those things. And so I didn't, obviously, at that point in time. But I was restricted. I couldn't go where I wanted to do, or I couldn't go where I wanted to go. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I wasn't free, right? And when I was 18, I ended up like traveling because I was no longer on probation. Or when you are on probation, you can get like permission to leave the state depending on your situation and the circumstances. If I'm not mistaken, I was granted the ability to go out of state for a little bit on a vacation because I was doing good on my probation. But I got to like go and travel. I went to numerous states. I got to like be a kid and like see this whole other side of life where, you know, you're not in your hometown. You're completely surrounded with like unfamiliar territory, new people, new faces, new experiences, new whole personalities, right? You're in a whole different part of the world or your country or state, depending on how you want to like view that. But it's not where you're from. The people where you're from act the same way as you. Maybe in some ways you have similar mannerisms. Like you're confined in this circle of people that talk about things in your small town, everybody has that same knowledge, right? But if you go somewhere else, completely different. So I got to travel and go to multiple different states for like weeks at a time, and like that was like once I was done with high school and like was freshly 18. And when you're freshly 18, you think you can do whatever you want. No one's like the boss of you anymore. You have it all figured out because you made it to 18, right? And yeah, I got to experience a very different side of life. I had the freedom to make my own decisions and be with people or not with people, or like not home, at home. And I don't know, it taught me a lot. But at that point in time, I was also in like a long distance relationship, which is the reasoning for my traveling. And looking back now, with what I know now, I want to do that shit again. That shit was fucked and hard and difficult and like really tested me as a person. That's something I know now I would never do again unless like my current relationship called for it, because my goal is to eventually travel, but my partner ideally would be with me. But I learned like that's not for me, and like it's hard. I learned a lot about myself and like my views on like what I believe a relationship should be. And it also helped me, like, again, I was trying to unconnect from previous traumas that like my parents taught me or gave me, however you want to word that, right? But then 19, I suffered pretty bad heartbreak from that same relationship, and I chose to like not be alone, and I got into another relationship too quickly while still like not being healed from that person that I was in the long distance relationship with. And that seeped into my then relationship and taught me a lot more about myself again. Was not a good human being myself. I didn't understand, how to be. I also got sober entirely from all drugs. I quit smoking weed. I stopped doing like any recreational drugs. I just wasn't doing anything. I got sober, completely sober. And I wouldn't say I struggled with addiction per se. I like definitely was extremely reliant on weed, but I do feel like some people suffer like with very different elements of addiction. And I don't feel like my experience is the same as that. And so I wouldn't say I struggled with addiction. I just got sober, right? I just wanted to clean my mind, find some clarity in life. Again, just try to figure things out, be the best human I can be. And from 19 to 23, I was in a 4-year-long relationship with somebody who didn't respect me for me or love me for me, and was continuously trying to manipulate who I was as a human. And I also wasn't great, not saying I was, but we were just not great for each other. And we both really broke each other down. And that relationship ended with me being the one getting dumped and broken up with. And that fucking destroyed me. I literally didn't know what I was gonna do with myself. I didn't know how to function. I was extremely codependent. I felt like, again, I was still wanting to be with one person that I got broken up with and swooped into this other relationship. And I didn't do that on purpose. It felt like I knew what I was doing and I was like good enough to get into this relationship, but I didn't know. I was young and naive and stupid. Won't even say stupid, you know what I mean? I was inexperienced. You're a fucking kid. My point, again, like you're a kid. And that relationship destroyed me. I felt like I lost every sense of myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't feel like I knew how to like exist in my own body. I had no control over Cody, me. I felt like I was reacting to situations purely out of how I felt, and like, again, just wasn't a compassionate partner and all these things. And again, I was the one who got broken up with. And when that happened, I felt so lost. I felt like I was dying inside. Like true heartbreak. I wanted to be with this person. I like didn't ever entirely account for all the bad things that took place in this relationship. What I mean by that is like, I was still willing to stick it out and be in this relationship no matter the hardships. And I just wanted to be with this person, right? That's like commitment. I was really committed, and this person chose that I wasn't the one for them anymore. And like, that's like a tough pill to swallow, but you have to. That's heartbreak, right? But so at 23, I went through a massive heartbreak and had to completely like relearn who I was as a person. I had to like feel comfortable in my own skin again. I had to like really analyze what I did wrong as a person, as a partner. And I had made that relationship my whole identity. So like when the relationship left, I felt like I lost myself. And like at the end of that, the only person was there was me and myself. And it really taught me like to like be comfortable with being me and being myself. And like, I always thought I was comfortable being myself. I'm not like afraid of who I am as a person. I think I'm like pretty cool. I think like I'm a great person. And like, not egotistically per se, but just like, you want to love yourself, right? Like, you want to be somebody you enjoy being around. You're stuck with yourself. And so I like really learned like what self-love was, and it all taught me how to like be good on my own, how to really treat like another person. And it like really taught me to like trust my input and like not let myself just get completely walked on in a relationship, because you want to hear your partner out. You want to hear what they have to say, but like, feelings and facts are two different things. And that's where I also really struggled. Was I was a very invalidating person. And so I've learned how to like validate people and like talk to people better, and just overall view the situation way better. And so when I was 23, I like had to move out of my apartment. I had to like lose having my own space. I had to move in with my grandparents, which was like a very, very big adaptation and adjustment. Like, it was very different. I went from being on my own at like 18 or 19, and I was in a relationship, but I wasn't under like a parental structure and like living in somebody else's space. Like, my grandparents took me in and let me live there, and that came with some rules, right? Even though I was 23, like, I just had to be respectful of like what they had going on. I had to be respectful of what they had going on, right? And I had to like learn how to like kind of just like readjust and like fit new scenarios and situations and circumstances. So I moved in with my grandparents, and I lived with them for about 6 months. And you know, I kind of just needed a place to be that I didn't have to worry, and I could exist and feel that love from my family, and just have like a full-blown reset. I definitely wasn't good enough to like be alone. I was heartbroken, you know what I mean? Heartbroken, depressed, anxious, really fucking struggling. And like, that took time. And then I moved out of my grandparents for a brief amount of time. I moved to a different part of my state, like 5 hours away, which was one of the biggest fucking things I have ever done. It was really important to me to like leave and go do my own thing and like figure life out, and like not be scared, or like to force myself to meet new people. My big goal once my previous relationship ended was to say yes more. I felt like I said no a lot in my relationship. I didn't want to do things. I was very insecure and tried to control so many situations. And despite me trying to control it, it fucking ended horribly, and that hurt more because I tried doing everything I could to prevent this situation. And so I wanted to say yes more. I said yes to my friends more. I went out more. I wanted to live life. And so I moved away from my grandparents, moved away 5 hours from my family, and went and lived with one of my close friends, and got to live a different side of life. I met a lot of new people. I had to like step outside of that comfort zone of being scared and just letting go. And so that was like a big experience for me. And I hit a point, it's funny, I have it in my notes somewhere that when I finally like decided to come back home, I stopped at this McDonald's, and I had been like partying and numbing things out in another way, you know what I mean? Living life and like partying like go hand in hand sometimes, but they also like, you think you're living your life, but you're like still numbing out some shit because you're trying to like make that transition between from one mindset to another mindset and different phases in life and all those things. I think that makes sense. But I stopped at this McDonald's on the way back home. Again, 5 hours away. It was a 5-hour drive. And I stopped at this McDonald's, and why I said all the partying stuff is I really hadn't been eating much. I was drinking and like partying, like I said. But I stopped at this McDonald's, and like I felt like it was one of like the first real times I got to eat some fucking food, and that's not even real food. And then I got to eat that food. I felt so fucking like relieved to eat. And I remember going to the bathroom at that McDonald's and like just typing in my notes like, this has been like the most peaceful shit I've had in fucking however long it was. And I literally just like can't wait to be home in my own bed, in my own pillow, and take a shit in my own bathroom. You know what I mean? And I find that funny. That's comical to me. But I got to experience something new with the safety net of like coming back home, and I ended up moving back into my grandparents' house for like another 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, 7, 8 months, around that time frame. But I moved back in there and like felt like a new person. I got to go live life and process things outside of where I'm from and in my grandparents' extra bedroom, or just spending every weekend hanging out at my parents' house because I wanted to not be alone. And I like really got to be alone. And that taught me so much. And on top of all of that, going through that heartbreak was one of the best fucking things that could have ever happened to me. And in that moment, I never saw it. I literally couldn't fathom a reality existed where I wasn't hurting anymore, or I wasn't in pain, or I felt like I grew from that situation. I felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Where I felt completely reborn. I figured out a whole different part of myself, still finding out who I am as a person. And I would have never thought that based off being heartbroken and broken up with. And it was the best thing that fucking happened to me. The best thing that's ever happened to me. That person was terrible for me. I was terrible for them. We were not cut out for each other. We had completely different views, and I thought that was okay because I was just trying to accept this person for who they were. And it is okay. People are allowed to be different. But I just realized it was something I was not willing to tolerate, or like was a boundary in my relationship. The big example that I realized now that was super important, I believe in God. I said in my previous video, I spent a lot of time trying to dedicate myself towards God and living in God's light, and that person did not believe in God and like would also kind of like mock my belief in God. And like when you talk about that talking about the past, very toxic, right? Like you don't do that. And so it was the best thing that happened to me, and I couldn't be more thankful it happened. I'm so happy it happened. And to fast forward now, 24, I turned 24 in the middle of all that as well. I got heartbroken, moved when I was like 24. No, that's actually not right. I was like 23. I came back, then turned 24. I am with my now current girlfriend, and I'm 25 now. And we have been together for the last year, and she is like exactly who I am. Like, we're so different, but we're so much alike. And she brought out like the greater qualities in me and made me realize, like, made me feel more secure in who I am. Somebody actually like enjoyed my humor and like didn't take my affection for granted, and really supported me, encouraged me to like be me, like shamelessly. And that's important. And she really has made me a better person, helped me feel comfortable enough to be the best me possible, and giving me that safe space to like not just fit in a box and I can just fucking however I want, right? Just exist in space. And that's important. And what I know at 25 now, I feel fucking reborn all over again. Everything that happened to me before 25, I feel like was just like a fucking pocket that is now created inside my brain. And it taught me like, hey, this is just like all the shit that happened from this low time frame, but you're not that. And like, we're starting over. So like at 25, like that's what life can be like, but this is like what life is going to be like. And being intentional, and like everything is fucking up to me, for better or for worse. I can like live the life I want, for better or for worse. I could be a fucking loser, or I could be like in the gym, like working out. Like, I'd be putting in work, going to the gym. I go and run like 3 or 4 miles a day and lift and all these things. Or I can like sit there and like be trying to control somebody to not go out. Or I can just encourage them, you know what, you go do that. I don't have to tolerate that. Like, I just am me. And like, life is cool as fuck, dude. And 25 is cool. Being 25 is like scary as fuck, but it's so cool at the same time, because I literally can just be whoever the fuck I want to be, and that's okay. And so that's why I'm here right now, like talking and sharing my experience with. It's not hard. It sucks and it's hard to restart, but it's so amazing and it's beautiful as fuck. Life is crazy, and again, I want to encourage people to like live life and experience what life is. Life is heartbreak, life is growth, and life is restarting and failing and then winning and losing. And even when you're losing, you're still winning if you're learning. And that's the thing, like all of it just comes together to make you who you are. And like, that is literally life. And most people say that is life in such a fucking negative way. But like, life is beautiful as fuck. And like, I'm so happy I'm here and alive to live it. And I know I'm gonna hit a point again where things don't go my way and they do just fuck up. And I'm going to learn something in those moments of life being fucked. But that's life in a good way. Like, it's going to shape you to be who you are, and like, you're gonna learn some shit. But to wrap this up, I just want to say what I wish I knew, or everything I knew before 25 taught me now at 25 who I want to be. And I'm still so young. I just gave you a 25-minute video of tiny details of the last 8 years of my life, 16 to 24, or 25, so 9 years. And I did that in that little time, but in all that I learned so much, right? What I know at 25, life is cool. I get to start and live however the fuck I want, and I want to encourage everybody else to do the same. You are like, what is that saying? Like, you are the master of your own plan, right? You got to figure it out. You have to. And I'm going to spend a lot of time encouraging people to live a better life. And that's what this is all about. So take it from me. Life is cool. You'll figure it out. It's going to suck, but it's going to be great. So It's all love. Have a good day, you guys.